Hey, welcome to another episode of the Apartment Rockstar Podcast. Today is a very, very special, well, they're all special, but today's pretty cool because I'm around these guys right here. These guys are some young hustler, like entrepreneur type, and it's really exciting because I know that a lot of our audience is in this demographic. I see these guys at conferences that I go to, and I'm like, wow, how young are you? You just ponied up the money to fly out here, to stay at a hotel, to listen to the business leaders that I'm paying to listen to, and I'm twice their age, So, man, kudos to you guys for doing this. Why don't you introduce yourself to the to our audience?
Thank you. I'm Seth Williams. I'm a student at A&M right now studying engineering, which Mr. Robert did engineering as well. Not going to use it, but that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I'm Kyle Gough. I'm a student at A&M as well. I'm actually a sport management major, but to be honest, I'm not sure what I want to do with it. But yeah, thanks for having us on, Rob. Appreciate it.
It's exciting to have you. And let's talk about engineering for a second, right? You're probably really good with numbers.
That's the only thing I'm good at. Yep.
Okay, and that's good. No, I think you have a more attributes and traits like that. I mean, you can tell. But having a good grasp on numbers is everything. I really believe in life that if you can learn how to communicate yourself, communicate what you want to people, have a salesman aspect to your personality, but also being able to count numbers in your head fast is really good. So often I see guys that don't have those attributes and they fail. You've got to have a good grasp on numbers because what are you doing? You're running a business, and 1 + 1 must equal 2, and you need to know how to add that. So being able to do quick numbers in your head. I always make fun of people who use your finger. Like, why do you do that? Like, why don't you do it in your head? Like, and so it makes you look intelligent when you can do numbers quickly within your head, and you can answer questions. And I think that adds a lot.
Absolutely.
So kudos to that. Whether or not you do engineering or not, it doesn't really matter, right? But you're going to school, you're getting that preliminary out. Your first mentor said to go do it, and so you're doing it.
Yeah, and I love how you said the salesman aspect, because what we do, we knock doors over the summer, and it's definitely something that it's uncomfortable, it's hard, it's actually really hard work, and just getting out there and getting uncomfortable in those situations is something that is definitely going to help us within the future when it comes to progressing and stuff like that. So I like how you mentioned that.
Yeah, in every group, if you're going to start a partnership or if you're going to start something, you got to find out what you're good at, and you want to double down on that. And then if you're not good at another, that's your weakness, hire that out or bring in a partner. So if somebody's strong with the sales aspect and somebody's strong with the financial aspect, I mean that is a good synergy. I will tell you though, don't use it as a crutch. You need to develop your skill set because everything has a beginning and an end, and that includes partnerships. Your life starts, your life will end. Your relationships start, your relationships will end. Every single one.
I've heard about you had a pretty rough partnership before.
Yeah, I did. So let me go back into my backstory. So, like you guys, my very first mentors were my parents, and they told me my dad worked at Whataburger for 40 years, and my mother worked at Levi's and later Hager's before both plants were closed, and they moved into Mexico. But their way to happiness in life, their way to having security was to go to school. And so I went to school, got good grades, and I got into A&M. And engineering sounded like the most logical thing, but it's just because it was put into me. It's what my influence told me to do. And so, I did that. Your teachers, right? Your other mentors. So I went there and I graduated. I didn't have a 4.0. I had a lower GPA. We're not going to discuss exactly what it was, but it started with a 2. And but you know what? It's because I had more of a sales personality, and I think having just enough on the math side, but having a surplus on the sales side is a big reason why I'm here today. I graduated A&M. I went into the workforce for about 10 years, working corporate America, oil and gas, engineered equipment sales here in Houston. So I sold stuff to the petrochemical plants, to the ship channel, to the engineering houses. And I was a sales guy. So, I wanted high commission and low base. You know, and I'm really of a mentality that I'm going to kill when I'm going to eat at night,
right.
and I want to get compensated for that. And what happens in corporate America is that you cannot make past a certain point. I want to make here, but they want you to make here, because you cannot make more than the VP of sales. You cannot make more than the guy in accounting. Like, well, the guy in accounting, all he does is count the numbers. He counts what I do, right? I create numbers. Without me, the lights don't stay on. All the accounting guy does is count what I've created. And once you realize that, you're like, wait, this is a very disproportion of what's going on, because you need me more than I need you. Anybody can do basic accounting. You know, can you go out there and knock on a door? And can you out there and convince somebody of the life cycle costs, you know, benefit analysis of why they should buy your equipment? No, you probably can't. Can you befriend them? No, because you don't have a personality. You know, can you go out and have a drink with them? No, because you don't know how to, you're socially awkward, you know, because you're on the accounting side, right? You're in a cubicle. And so after they played with my commission plan a couple, 3 times, I was very disappointed. And I listened to business radio. And back then I'm listening to, you know, Dave Ramsey. I'm listening to Ray Lucia, a guy here in Houston, or not national guy, Susie Orman. Then I found a guy named Del Walmsley, and he was with a company called Lifestyles Unlimited. Had been in Houston for 30 years, a real estate club. And finding him on the radio changed my life. That was the moment in life that I went from the Robert that my mom and my dad knew, that my friends knew, to the Robert that I became later on. And that's a transition, right? Because what happens is you are who you hang out with. And my friends I started hanging out with millionaires because they're all part of this real estate club. Well, that means my non-millionaire friends didn't have as much for me to engage with, you know, like we're not having the same stories anymore. But back into the real estate club, you know, I went there thinking that I'm going to go on this weekend $500 boot camp and learn single family and become the single family king. And I'm going to buy 3 or 4 rent houses, making me, I don't know, $400 or $500 each. And I'm going to right the wrong of corporate America. And I'm going to keep my day job as I moonlight and make a few dollars on the side. I went home, talked about it with my wife at the time, came back the next day, and I was introduced into multifamily investing. And that was that true Morpheus Neo moment, like from the Matrix, where you got the red pill and the blue pill. And he says to Neo, take this pill and it's going to change your life. Take this other pill, you go back to your normal life. You know, it changed my life, joining that club. And today it created generational wealth for me and the family because of the decisions and the education that I gave myself. So I joined the club. It was just $500 was that entry level. It was a $10,000 investment. And I always remember there when he took our $10,000, everybody in the room who wanted to join, I remember him saying, now great, I have your money now. Guess what? 80% of you will do nothing with the knowledge that I'm going to teach you. 20% of you will do something, you know. And I'm a very competitive guy. Anybody who knows me knows that. And I was not going to just flush $10,000 down the drain. That was the second highest check I'd ever written at one time. My first check was my down payment on my first home, 5 years earlier. And I wasn't going to just let $10,000 go. So I committed to the club. I committed to the education. I committed to going to all the networking events, right? Which, you know, if you ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that is the very first book you should read. This real estate club was like a Rich Dad, Poor Dad book come to life. You had a strong group of like-minded people who would later become my friends, replacing my old friends. And I had great success in that club, and I started buying deals. And so you're talking about my first partner. You know, I had a partner. We had an agreement when we joined. We met in the real estate club. We were going to get him to 1,000 units, and then we're going to work on getting me to 1,000 units. And the reason why I took the back seat is that I didn't have his balance sheet. I didn't have his money. He had a successful real estate career up to that point in London. So he had several $1 million, and I had less than that. And so I took the sales role, the operational role, which is the most important role. Anybody has money, but do you have knowledge of how to do something? Knowledge is king. Money's not. It's knowledge is power. Because you always hear Gary Vee says, you know what? If I were to go back and lose it all, I'll make it all back, because you cannot take what I learned. And so in that time, I became the operating arm. And so what happened was he reneged on his promise to me after one deal, after helping me get to 118 units. I helped this guy get to 1,000 units plus. He reneged on it, and I realized I can't trust you anymore. It's like being in a relationship where someone's been cheated on, and it was very premeditated. He brought in his business partner, into our company, which I thought we were going to be like this three amigos and whatever, and that's how it was explained to me. And I'm a very loyal guy, and so I would never have left him. I would never have broken that partnership. But that was my first introduction into be careful who you partner with. And when he did that to me, he did to my wife and kids were over at his house giving Christmas cookies, and I'm on the phone with him, arguing with him, like, what do you mean this? What do you mean you're not going to honor your commitment? And so fast forward a couple months later, I left the company. I let him buy me out. I used his buyout money plus my other money, and I bought my very first investment, which was called North Lake Manor Apartments. And it was in the, really tough property that had been foreclosed twice in the previous 10 years. It was in bankruptcy. I picked it up for $15,000 a door. And,
Wow.
But as an operator, I knew what it could do. And I knew you can't go wrong at $15,000 a door. And so I bought it. We actually just sold it in January. We paid $1.1 million for it, and we sold it for $10 million.
Wow.
In January. It was well over a 900% score
Wow.
for the investor. So it's like, imagine we held it for 10 years. Imagine making 90% a year ROI, And if I just wait a little bit longer, like to right now, because the market's going really hot, I mean, I would have hit 1,000. I would have hit 1,000% return, and that would have been amazing. And it's funny because I used his buyout of my partnership and my money, and I became a 40% owner in that deal. So the family and I did really well on that, because of the risk that we took, to get into that business. And so, you make lemonade when you're given when life gives you a lemon. And I never would have left him, but because he created the opportunity to leave him, he created my new company, Rockstar Capital, which I founded in 2011. We've gone on to, have well over 4,000 apartment units. We have $450 million of asset value. We've won 19 city, state, national awards, and because of my operational knowledge and prowess, I'm a 2-time national independent owner of the year.
When we were walking in, I was talking to a lady at the front desk. I'm like, man, the only trophy they don't have at the front of this office is the World Series Astros trophy. I mean, literally, there's so many awards, trophies. It is wild.
Yeah, and those are important, right? It is important to put those in the lobby. It is important to highlight them because every single day, I want the staff to see that. I want them to see it every single time they go to lunch. I want everybody that comes in to visit us to let them know they are in the office of Rockstar Capital, and that means something. This is a company that expects to win. This is a company that plays hard, that looks after everybody else. We're in a people business, and if I don't put my people first, then how am I asking them to put our residents first? So, it is a badge of honor that we wear out there. Everything's about promotion, and if I don't tell you how great we are, then how are you going to know? I made a comment to you earlier on a different subject, right? But everybody has a brand. Some are just more known than others, and that's your fault. Budweiser is the biggest beer brand in the world because they're committed to making that happen. But they're really the best beer you ever had in the world? No, they're not. It's good, but there's better.
Yep.
You just don't know about them.
McDonald's
is not the best burger in the world, but it's the most famous burger in the world, because they got a bigger brand. We've all had a better burger than McDonald's. No, there's no question. And I'm not even talking other fast food chains. Everybody's had a better burger than McDonald's. But they're the biggest and the baddest because they got the brand that they built. They put the money behind it. They put the strategy behind it. And now everybody knows all their catchphrases.
So was Lifestyle Unlimited your first time when you started surrounding yourself with higher level people or with people who are at a higher level than you? Was that the first time?
Yeah, I mean, certainly I didn't have real estate as a background for me. My dad worked at Whataburger for 40 years. The only real estate we owned was the house that they bought in 1980 that my mom and dad still own today.
Wow.
That they live in. My dad passed away 5 years ago, but my mom was there, and that was it. So none of my friends had any real estate, and so I didn't have any real estate. So it's very, very important that you know who you spend your time with. right? And if you were like, you go look at the 5 people in your life, that's who you're going to be the combo of. We've heard that 1,000 times. They've used that expression over, but it's true. And if you're number 1 in that group, you're in the wrong group, So what happened later on is that I wound up being number 1 in that group. I was the biggest fish in the pond for a little while. And it wasn't until that I started to discover social media, that I started to discover branding, that I started to ruffle feathers in the group, because they didn't teach that. They didn't understand it. They didn't understand what was going on. And here I am going to go see Gary Vee and coming and trying to understand, social media. And then coming back from Gary Vee, within 2 months, I had my first videographer. Then I go see Grant Cardone, ooh, the devil, right? And because Grant does it, and he talks about himself, talks about what he's doing. But man, what's he doing? He's creating that McDonald's brand. Yep. He's synonymous right now. When you think of an independent apartment owner, it's synonymous with Grant Cardone. And because he's made that a mission to him, well, those things occurred in the real estate club, that I was talking too much about myself, that I was talking too much about the company, that I wasn't giving thanks to whatever, they wanted to use as an argument. And I was asked to leave. No. Did it stop the Rockstar Capital machine? No. We continue to buy a bunch of deals because we have a brand. We have a brand that's bigger than a real estate club asking you to leave. And we've gone on to win, awards. We've gone on to win successful operations and to bring in and recruit better people, So it means nothing. You've got to grow. And I'll tell you what, now, you mentioned ago, I got a text message, and who was it?
Grant.
It was Grant Cardone.
The man himself.
But Grant Cardone didn't text me back when I was in that real estate club. So now I've traded out those friends for new friends,
Wow.
And that's kind of how you have to keep growing. And you always hear the expression, it's lonely at the top. It can be. It's very important that you take your team with you, because it will be lonely. I'm very blessed and fortunate. I've hit goals in my life that are beyond my expectation, and I'm very grateful, and I'm very blessed by that. And I want to share back with my team. There are personal things that are important to them that I make important to me. Personal favors they've asked of me that I've been able to do for them because, I can. I can. And if I can make the right phone call, if I can make the right introduction, if I can even just help with a financial gift in some way to help somebody because it's at the right time for them. If I can do it, and I think it's appropriate, I will. And just think about how that changes somebody's life because they know that you can count on them. I ask a lot of people in this office, and I don't want them to struggle. I don't want them showing up here with the wrong attitude because something's out there in their life and it's eating them up. I don't want that. If I can help them in a way, I'm going to, because that's the position I'm in today. And so yesterday we had our first mastermind, our inaugural mastermind of real estate investors, guys wanting to get into multifamily, and Grant Cardone shows up, and he showed up because I made important to me what's important to him, and that's growing his business, sales. So I'm a Cardone customer. This company has bought several products of Cardone's, including Cardone U and GrowthCon tickets. In fact, I think I've got I want to say I have 15 GrowthCon tickets for his next one.
Jeez.
That's a 6-figure investment that I made when I was there.
Wow.
Because I don't like going to these conferences alone. I don't like it. I want them to come back with the ideas. I want us all to drink the Kool-Aid, and with that, the Astros are in town right now. And I have tickets, and I'm going back I went yesterday, and I'm going to tonight's game too, and we'll see what happens, right? But I'm not going alone. I'm taking members of my team.
You're taking your team with you.
Yeah.
Like
Yesterday's game, we had 11 team members who all sat together. Tonight I'll be sitting with the head of our operations, but in the next section over, I've got another 11 tickets that are coming in. So that's 22 plus, there's 24 tickets, for my team to be there. They're not cheap, but you know what? They're in a number that makes sense to me, and I want to share in that. I almost feel bad. I know I've worked hard. I know I've taken the risk and all that, and I know I should appreciate and acknowledge what I've done. But man, if I can offer something like that for everybody here that may not get a chance to go otherwise, it feels good. I feel good, and I wonder if that's how Grant came around, because it was unscheduled, it was unplanned. I didn't know he was coming, and he stayed for like an hour, and he basically gave an impromptu keynote to everybody there. And we were talking to Ashley a minute ago, and she was saying the reaction that she saw as he walked through the door, and everybody in that 20-person training room, experienced to see him, and then later on my own team to visit with him and talk to him and engage with him and have him walk through, the halls of Rockstar Capital. It's pretty freaking amazing.
That's awesome.
And so I know that doesn't just happen. I know it's because you're doing good stuff in life and you've got a positive attitude, and call it God, call it just being a good person. Do unto others as you want them to do to you. He came back.
That's one thing I want to admire about you, Mr. Robert, is you were, whenever we first met, that first multifamily event, you were just super energetic. Whenever we talked, you were like locked on, just interested to hear what I had to say, whatever it was. And then when we saw each other again at the Driven event over in Los Angeles, and then the fact that we're here, like you just give so much, and the team all going to Astros and all this crazy stuff. Why do you think you are such a giver?
It's a great question. I if I have to guess, I'm gonna credit my dad. My dad worked at Wahlberger for 40 years, and he built teams. Man, he was good. He knew what he was doing. He knew how to instill a culture of commitment and accountability. And in that, he was a very generous guy. I remember watching my dad. We'd invite family over, and he'd always overcook. Like, we have like 6 people coming. He'd cook for 20. Like it was nuts what he would do, and he would do it every single time. And he was always inviting people to the house to come cook. To come and I buy stuff out. I don't cook anymore or ever. But Dad cooked. He was a big grill guy, and so he was out there. It takes a while to cook fajitas for 20 people, or to cook hamburgers, which is what he was really good at. To make that kind of food, and he would just always want to just share what we had. And so maybe I saw that. Maybe it rubbed off. Or maybe it's already was in him, and he passed it genetically over to me. But again, I'm very, very blessed to be where I'm at. I've overachieved for the goals that I ever could have imagined. But it's because my expectations were set like that, right? And so with that, I want to share in the rewards of what this company can offer and the benefits of membership in our Rockstar Capital company, But then, on a side note there, right, I look at my kids, right, their expectations will be much higher than what mine were, because they're being instilled in them by me, as my expectations were instilled by me by my father. Now, again, Dad worked at Whataburger for 40 years, and he made $100,000 every single year for 20 years. But he didn't do anything with it. My kids, right? Let's say my kids are me and I'm my dad, we're in a completely different boat. And so the expectation is very different for them moving forward on what they should achieve. And that's how it is. That is the classic American dream, right? That is like mom and dad, grandparents, whatever, first generation, they take the struggles early on and the risk, and they're probably very poor, challenged for sure, to go and provide a better livelihood, a better experience for their children. Because my grandparents were not, they were very, very poor people. They didn't, we had a very, very small house. We'd always go to grandma's house, and I remember Dad always giving my grandparents, some assistance and whatever. And then, my dad looked like the one that he had all the wealth, right? He made wealth for 20 years. But, as that grows, every generation gets a little bit more, So I feel that I play for them.
Yeah.
I feel that, when I ask myself, what would Dad want to do? What would Dad do? How would he handle this situation? And then at other times, as you grow, you get other mentors, and I constantly say, what would Grant do in this situation? Right? And that from the business side, right? From the strong, like, what would he do? How would he play this? And it's interesting. I love to talk, but when you want to talk business, there's some great examples, right? Are you committed or are you not?
Yeah. Wow. So is it a pretty awesome feeling to know that you're the person in your family line that really was the one that turned it around from the, middle class to stepping it up?
It's a great question. No one's ever asked me that before. I'll tell you, I don't think about it. I don't, because that's too much pressure, I think, to put on to somebody. I play for the name on the back. If you share the same name, that's fantastic. If you don't, other thing too, we can move into being Latino. I don't see myself as anything other than that. Look, I went to A&M. Okay. So, I know people who said there were racist type things. I never experienced it. Now I ask myself, why didn't I experience it? Because I didn't go looking for it. I don't go looking for, a problem. I just play. And look, I didn't graduate A&M top of my class. You probably had better grades than me. I mean, I had a 2 point something, and it didn't matter if I was white or black or Hispanic. It really didn't matter. I had a 2 point something. It matters what you do with it, and I never thought about trying to carry my family's name or trying to carry ethnicity. I just went to work and just found my way. None of that entered my mind when I'm trying to challenge myself, in the real estate world. None of that entered my mind when I'm trying to meet, a Gary Vaynerchuk or a Grant Cardone or whomever it is. It's just a will to want to be better, and that came from my parents. That is them. My dad was the most smartest guy that I ever met. He graduated valedictorian of his high school. His best friend graduated second, wound up going to NASA, working on the moon missions, in the 1970s, and my dad didn't. My dad went to work at Whataburger. He was very good at it, but he didn't have any self-confidence. My mom, total opposite. She didn't have my dad's IQ, but man, she was just she's fire, man, and she got the best out of my dad for as much as she could, So I'm very blessed that I've got a mixture of the two of them. Maybe not 100% of each of them, but in the right combo. That with me, I use it to my advantage. I've always had a desire for more, and luckily I've had the ability to execute on that.
And that desire for more, I believe you've heard, or you said it before, that your mom was somebody that kind of maybe instilled that or showed that to you. Like she was just somebody, like it didn't matter if she could do it or couldn't. She thought she could.
That's exactly what it is. You stole the words out of my mouth. I mean, mom has this amazing ability to just talk and just talk. She's got ultra confidence in herself. She does. And I think she did her best to put that into my father. And with us, we're just, we've been around mom, right? And some of them are really good habits. Some of them are really bad habits. Interrupting people is a bad one for sure. But, you gotta, as a professional, you learn, you mature and you cultivate. So you don't do that as much. You recognize that's not a good trait to have, But yeah, she gave me that ability to believe. She gives the ability to that you're somebody and you would do something great, and you just got to believe in yourself. So at times I had suffered from my dad's lack of confidence for sure, but as I matured and I got confident in what I was doing, I knew I had ambition for something else. But as I got experienced and polished in what I did, that natural confidence in me came out. And the ambition to want to keep driving. Like, I don't really, I feel bad. I don't really have a direct goal. I know I see guys in front of me, and I shoot for their target. I try to get there. I don't, it's, somebody asks me, well, when's enough? It's never going to be enough. Because it's not about money it's about what can I achieve. I'm just a kid from a border town in South Texas whose daddy worked at Whataburger his whole life, What can I do? What can I achieve? Real estate was not in my world. It is now in my world, and I want to be a dominant player. I want to be the best player. And when I see a guy like GC, man, I love him to death because he's shown me what is possible. From fundraising online with social media to just, achieving. Like, if he can have a jet and a helicopter, guess what? I'm going to have a jet and a helicopter. Yep. It's coming. Yep. It's just, am I willing to do what it takes to sacrifice to get to that level? In life, right, you got to take risk, and in life you may need to sacrifice. I don't know if you think it's a good example or not, but you've seen Marvel Infinity War, right? Thanos doesn't get that final Infinity Stone until he sacrifices his daughter, the one thing he loved true in his life, right? So I think often there are major sacrifices that you are faced with, and you ask yourself, are you willing to do that? I discovered real estate by quitting my day job. I walked away from a $150,000 salary or compensation back in 2007, which I don't know, it's probably what, $250 today. Pretty good living, to sit in the chair to make $30,000 a year, as I learned the apartment world. And I burned the boat, and I took that island. And I said, I ain't going back. I ain't going back to that kind of life that I had, where I didn't have that financial control or the ability to dictate terms on how I wanted to live. And so I made it work. And then what do you know? Before long, you just put your head down, man. Lunch pail mentality. You go to work. I didn't talk about anything. Nobody knew who I was for a long time. And again, I credit guys like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone about creating a brand, about putting yourself out there, because mom and dad, they tell you not to talk about yourself. They're always, not to share what you're working on. Oh, that's a big one. And I've been caught in that. I would always think that I would share what I'm working on. It wouldn't happen. The bad mojo, whatever it is. I think at some point you get over that. And I think that if you do enough good in the world and you're sharing it with the right people, it's going to happen. I do believe in positivity. I do believe in negative vibes, and I do believe that if you do your very best to do right in this world, it's going to come back to you.
Yeah. So you were talking about how your confidence.
Yeah.
Do you think that confidence was from your results here at Rockstar Capital, or was it more from like your why, like your background, or from like your mom or your dad?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my confidence is on super, super high levels right now as a result of the achievements.
Okay.
Believe me, I when I walked in from that day job in 2007 to do this full time, I was not confident. I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know if I could do this, but I did it. And then I went on and I worked with my old partner, and we built 2,000 units, a portfolio, and I ran them all. So of course, when I'm starting Rockstar Capital, I'm like, what's different? What's different? I can do this. I can do it on my own. No, last thing he said to me was, you can't do it without me. I was like, I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, because I have been doing it without you. You just haven't been paying attention. You've undervalued operations. You don't know the names of all of our team. You don't know them on a personal level. You don't know the names of their children. So you don't understand this business, because this is a people business, and people build the business. End of story. Not the guy at the top. It's people build the business. So are you investing in those people so they can help you build the business? Again, are you sharing with them along the way the fruits of the business? Like, the Astros thing, that's huge. That is that is not on anybody's comp. That is a benefit of being a rock star. That's just what it is. It's a benefit of being a rock star in this group. And the closer you are to me, the closer the benefit is. The better the benefit is. And so none of that existed in that firm.
Yep.
But it started day one at Rockstar.
Yeah, that's something I've heard you've harp on a lot, is that this is a people business. People business. I think that's what's helped Rockstar, hit 450 assets under management, which is absolutely crazy. Like you said, you shattered all your goals that you thought were achievable.
Yeah, and it's because I didn't do it alone. How's the expression go? If you want to go far, how's the expression go? Well,
if you want to go fast, go alone.
Go alone. If you want to go far, do it in a team. And I think I just naturally fell into that. I don't think it was anybody saying that to me. I just think that having watched my dad do those things, I really do think, because I don't remember a lot of business lessons Dad shared with me. A couple of little things like, you always want to inspect what you expect. That's a big one that he put into me. But I don't remember other examples. I just think it's inherent in you. And I think it's inherent in you to do good things. I once heard Brad Lee said this to me. He said that, money's not the root of all evil. If you're a bad guy, you're a bad guy. Whether you have money or not, you're going to be a bad guy with money. If you're a good guy, you're going to be a good guy with money. I hope I'm a good guy. And so if I'm a good guy with money, then I want to share. I want to share because I think it changes people's lives. I think it helps them see an expectation. And I think it comes back to you in life. I really do. I think good people, should help. If you have the ability to help others, you should do it.
Yeah, and that's so true. Because when we were walking through, like, I'm sure everyone in that office is just excited to go to this Astros game, and they're probably literally excited to be here to work. They're like, man, after this, we're just gonna go to the Astros game, gonna have a good time, watch the Astros win. It's just creates an awesome environment.
It creates an awesome environment. They're gonna go with their teammates. I mean, with their team workers, their workmates.
Right.
And I didn't just give one ticket. I gave like 2 tickets, everybody.
Wow.
So they can take their spouse.
I didn't know that. Wow.
And I want them to share in that because it's, the benefit of being here. It's a partnership at home, and there are going to be times when work is important and you've got to make that choice too, right? They're going to feel a lot better about the spouse having to do something with work related at home or stay late or whatever if they know, wow, it's a good company. They take care of us. They try their best, So being able to share that benefit with your spouse and go through and experience perhaps a once-in-a-lifetime event, is big. I really believe that. I think it's big. And I think it shows not just your direct staff member, but also their family that, hey, wow, he's committed to us. He didn't have to do it.
Yeah.
That's and awesome. You were showing us the ticket prices, man. Those are not cheap. Those are not cheap.
Well, we should have waited today, right? Because ticket pricing's half,
Right.
But oh wow.
So we talked a little bit back before, and I wish we would have recorded that for a podcast. It was like 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and we were talking.
Yeah, we were talking a lot.
But you started talking about like how important having a powerful why is. You said the reason why Grant Cardone went from 500 million assets under management in 2018 to 2 billion now.
There's something there, and I know a piece of it. If you have seen the interview that I can't think of the Real Deal, the guy out of London, he talks to Grant and he talks to Elena, and they talk about Grant. Tell me how you decided you want to become a billionaire. And Grant says, this is my wife. And, here I am working really hard. I'm pushing things forward. I'm doing the very best I can. And she's saying to me that, it's not enough. I need you to be a billionaire. Now, if you've ever been married or you've ever been in a serious relationship with somebody, your number one fan is your spouse and your partner. And if they tell you that you're not doing good enough, that will mess you up. And so he said in this interview, it hurt me. But then she goes and she explained, Grant, you have to be a billionaire because you said you want to hit 1 billion people in this planet. And it just clicked for him. It was a eureka moment, I believe. I have to be a billionaire. She is helping me achieve my goals because if I told her that I want to hit $1 billion, she's going to help me. I need to hit 1 billion people. She's doing the math in her head. You're going to have to be a billionaire. How does everybody know Elon Musk? Because he's a billionaire. How does everybody know Bezos? Because he's a billion. He's such a billion people. A billion people probably use Amazon.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? But he created the mechanism, the infrastructure for 1 billion. Bill Gates, over 1 billion people. We know that, right? So the math says you have to be a billionaire. And I guess he had not done, who would, right? Who would come to that conclusion? She did, and that led into the jet. You need a jet to get across the world. You do. I think he's like on his 3rd jet, right?
And like 4th helicopter.
He has helicopters just to market with. You can't be in 2 helicopters right at the same time. That's marketing, and I see it. I've been there in Miami. I've been with him when the damn helicopter's up there, right? He's not in it. He's over here standing next to me or whoever he's doing. So, it's branding and branding, man. I'll tell you what, he's been very right on a lot of things. He's been very, fortune teller, soothsayer, man. I don't know if you read a book or something. I think like in Back to the Future, he's got like the sports almanac. I don't know if he's got a sports almanac or a real estate almanac, right? But he's been accurate. He moved out of California at the right time. He moved to Miami at the right time. He has said for a long time that Miami will be the new Beverly Hills, and it is happening. If you've done have you been to Miami anytime?
I've never been to Miami.
I've been to the airport, but I haven't.
Miami is on fire real estate wise, and there's so many people moving there. Everything is exploding in value. They can't keep up construction wise. You've got all the New York people, you've got all the people from California, and it's not just Miami. Miami seems to be the mecca, probably because of the weather. And so many New Yorkers have been, I don't know if you know this, so many New Yorkers and East Coast guys have been coming to Florida forever. That's just where they go.
That's the vacation spot.
That's their vacation. And like, you know what? When you've got these families, they're like, I don't want to be in this kind of environment anymore in New York or in the blue states, and they want to come there. Like, why don't we just stay there? Like, I'm tired. And COVID did all that. COVID and then the political climate that COVID been created, like they're New York, California, you're a whole nother country. You have with a different mentality and a different thought process. Washington D.C. is right there. It's very, very blue. It is a very different atmosphere in Texas and in Florida. Those are two strong state governments with red governors running them. I don't remember the last time I wore a mask in Houston, but that is common knowledge. That is every day in California. That is every day in New York. It's crazy what they make people do. What they subject you for the same air that you're breathing.
Yeah.
I don't require any of my staff to wear masks, but if I go to any of these restaurants that are California, New York based, Lululemon, other Equinox, I work out at Equinox, they're wearing masks. I feel bad for you that you see people walking around because the governor says you don't need to have a mask to walk in, but to be an employee there, you got to have a vaccine or you have to wear a mask. Like, we are breathing the same air, and I'm not, falling over and dying. But you see what we allow ourselves to be. You see, I'm getting a little passionate about it, about what we allow ourselves to get subjected to. Man, I tell you what, that's why I like real estate, because real estate has the ability to give you security blankets. And right now we got 21 assets. I've got 21 security blankets. We just did distributions. I approved them yesterday, and they were getting punched out today. Almost 1.4 million. In distribution. That goes to our investors.
Wow.
Right? That goes to me. And that gives us that security that you don't have to put up with this crap,
Jeez.
and to where you can have a voice, you can have something, don't be silenced, like put up with this stuff,
Yeah.
Go Brandon, go Brandon.
So back whenever you were making that switch from the engineering to, I think whenever you started getting into real estate, what was it, like $30,000 or something was whenever you were starting?
To join the club?
Mm-hmm.
It was $10,000.
Well, no, whenever you were like, you were making 150 engineering, and then you took that big
to make a salary,
cut. How did because a lot of people, they can't, like, I know my dad, and it sounds like your dad as well. I know my dad could not fathom that,
Yeah, and that's a great thing. My dad couldn't either. He's like, why would you want to ruin your life? You got a beautiful life. You're doing so much better than me. You're making as much as I am, and I'm 20 some years older than you. Why would you do that? Well, what gets in the way of a great life is a good life. And you have to ask yourself, do you want to work at Whataburger for 40 years? Do you want to live that life that Dad's been living? And if not, then why are you taking that advice? My mentor, I have two main mentors, and it's Gary Vaynerchuk and Grant. And you got one guy that wants to buy the New York Jets, and he does everything he can to create companies that he can create and sell so he can get to the money he needs to buy the New York Jets, but it's a goal for him. And you got a guy like Grant Cardone who owns a jet, and he wants to be a billionaire. Yeah. And so I'm blessed to have Grant in my life and in my industry because, again, he's shown me what can be done. And I love that. He's like a dad. He's like a mentor telling you, do this. I mean, go to his Instagram. When is he not soliciting for the next deal? When is he not, trying to grow? And he wants you to grow with him.
Yeah.
Invest with me. Let's do this together. Now, he's going to run the deal, so he's going to get compensated accordingly. But you can keep doing what you're doing. You can invest with him. You can get a part of that real estate game. You can understand what it's like to be an owner. It's not a rich man's investment anymore. It's not a country club investment, or Wall Street investment. It can be done for the everyday guy, and that's one of the things that I'm very blessed with. That we're talking $450 million of asset value, but I've raised $140 million of private capital, and it did not come from a Wall Street or from a hedge fund. It came from everyday people that live next to me, that are doctors, attorneys, lawyers, teachers, plumbers, engineers. I'm trying to think, there's a lot of people that do a lot of things, and their lives getting changed. They're getting exposed to the rich man investment. They own bricks and sticks. And right now, man, with the way everything is going, you better take your money out of that fiat currency that you call dollars in your pocket, because it's going down in value. This government is in trouble. We have printed 40% of our money supply was printed in the last 18 months. That means that means that every $1, 40 cents did not exist. It's been devalued down to 60 cents. That's why you're seeing Used car pricing, record highs. You're seeing everything is going up, right? Because inflation is insane, and it's going to continue. It's going to continue, and I thank GC for showing me, and I hope people are paying attention if they're listening to this. You better buy to protect yourself in the future. You better buy. You better try to find a way to do it, because you're going to get priced out. You're going to get priced out, and he's buying everything he can, and he's going up against the big players, and that's just like, wow, okay, if he can go up against a Blackstone type player, I can too. If he can raise, he's got a new deal right now. I think it's like $280 million, the purchase price in prime Central Florida, and he's giving you all the reasons why you should buy it. And he's going to raise $90 million. Like, I've raised 140 million in the last 10 years. He's raising 90 million just on this alone. So that tells me, okay, we can do bigger. We can do more. But you got to push yourself to that level. You got to say, I'm committed to this, right? How are you going to do it? And that's all it is. You just draft behind him. Ellis likes to use that expression. I love that. It's important who you draft behind, right? I want to draft behind that guy. Mm-hmm. That means I want to watch what he's doing. I want to pay attention. And he knows this. It's why he's sharing it. He's trying to inspire you. I want to see what he's doing, and I want to take what I can of that and use it and get to the next level. And he wants that, right? Because, he had a private convo with me. Well, it wasn't private. I mean, he had a convo with me. He wants to sell to Blackstone. He wants me to sell with him, right? So I've got to get my game up. I've got to push forward. I got to make it more of a commitment. I got to have more sense of urgency. I got to understand that, man, if everything's going to be worth more in 10 years, and, then that your black swan event is right now. You have a crystal ball. You have a sports almanac in front of you, like Back to the Future. You know where things are going. So why in the hell would you not borrow 3% money and go buy as much as you can? It seems stupid not to do it. It's right in front of you. So do it. Don't put it in a car. Don't put it in something dumb that's gonna, anything that doesn't make you income is the wrong investment. It doesn't. It doesn't make you income. It's the wrong investment. It may appreciate, and that's great, but when you want to get the max dollars of something, my apartments will appreciate too, because I'll make them appreciate through the value creation, but you're also going to get a yield on it that you don't get a yield owning a diamond, or you don't get a yield owning a fancy watch, or you don't get a yield on owning a fancy car. You get a yield on something that will take care of you if you don't want to go to work in the morning.
So for somebody who, if you could go back to your younger self and you wanted to get started into multifamily, what's kind of the pathway to getting into multifamily? Is it as a passive investor?
Well, number one is education. Before you invest in anything, invest in yourself. And in 2021, you guys are blessed because they didn't have social media. They didn't have YouTube. They didn't have Google when I was 21, 23. They didn't have it. You had the beginning days of maybe Yahoo, maybe. I don't remember anymore, but I know there was no Google, and I know there was no Facebook, and I know there was no YouTube, where you couldn't get on-demand training when you wanted it. That's huge. So first of all, just exposing yourself to something greater, you will start to think greater because you change your trajectory of your thought process. It's very absolute in your head. It's very tunnel vision. It's very stay in your lane kind of thing. You're going to go off of what your earliest mentors told you. But when you open it up into what's on YouTube and what's on social media, you've opened your mentors up, right? You've opened your lane up, which means you've opened the possibility of what can be. I did not know that I would own $450 million of real estate because my dad, who worked at Whataburger for 40 years, didn't own real estate, and he didn't tell me this was a possibility. And it wasn't his fault. He just wasn't told either. Well, guess what? My kids are told that. They're going to know what's a possibility. Donald Trump Jr.'s kids know what's possible. And that includes being president, not just owning the real estate. So it's all about exposure and proximity. So to answer your question, what would I tell my 23-year-old self is do your research, go shake hands and kiss babies at these conferences, go introduce yourself, go meet somebody. When I took my kids to go meet Grant Cardone, I wanted to do that because I know he's going to be a billionaire. And I wanted my kids to say, I met that guy. Now, I'm also influencing them without knowing it. They're now seeing what's capable. They're now seeing what's achievable because daddy's doing it. And I'm doing it because I'm watching a guy like that. Now, I was doing real estate before Grant became public on this. So he wasn't my influence. He wasn't my inspiration to get started. That was me and my children and what me getting taken advantage of. But watching him in my space that I feel like I've dominated really well, to come in here and just like a ball of lightning, just continue to go like, wow. That's commitment. That's what's achievable and available if you want to push it there, you know? And I encourage all you guys that are 23, 20. The reason why you're here with me today is because I went to this driven event in California that Albert Preciado put on, and Sylvia Preciado, his wife. And it was the single most amazing business conference that I ever went to, including Grant's, because they had the very, very best lineup that I've ever seen. That you help me remember this: the Milettes, the Andy Frizellas, the
Itzler,
Jesse Itzler. My God,
I think there are more billionaires than non-billionaires that were on the panel.
Oh, and then you have your second crowd, your Bobby Castro's, which owns $600 million, you know, and he has a 9th grade education of real estate. Like, I resonated with these. Brad Lee, holy crap, Brad Lee, you know, the salesman of salesmen, you know, on that, right? The guy that closes these guys, right? Think about it. That's who he is. They all use his products.
Yep.
So who's the better salesman? The guy that owns the product, right, Brad? It's you, isn't it? So I hope he's watching. That'd be awesome. He is. He's the salesman of the salesmen, because he's closing them, and they use his product to make their product work. It's pretty obvious, right? Right, Brad? But anyway, I'm straying away. You know, I admire that you're there. I'm blown away that you're there, because I wasn't there at 23. Shit. I mean, let's talk about what you asked me. What was I doing at 23? Man, I'm just trying to figure myself out. You know, I'm just graduating college. Let's just say graduate college, because I graduated at 23 in August of '97. I moved to a $550 all bills paid apartment, roach infested, but because that's all I could do. That's all I could afford. Never imagined doing what I'm doing. But what happened was I got cheated somewhere. And I'm a big loyal guy. When I got cheated by my employer on what I was supposed to make, and he took $20,000 off the top because he gave it to somebody else, or he changed my commission structure, that was what I needed as a lightning rod, as a stimulus to be doing something better. At the end, too, look, I'm 23. I'm not very desirable to couple up with. I'm trying to figure myself out. You know, I was skinnier, and of course, and I had potential, and I can speak, but I wasn't doing 75 hard like you. I wasn't going and doing, you know, business conferences. You know, you make yourself more desirable, and with that grows your confidence. My confidence came later. My confidence came later in life when I figured myself out. And when I figured myself out, my confidence grew and grew and grew to the point that right now, look, I mean, I've overachieved any goals that I ever had. I got guys like Grant, you know, coming to my meetings, you know, or sending me a text. You know, I know Bobby Castro's now. I know these guys now, but I know them because I made myself available to know them. You know, yep. I introed myself to them. You know, what I like to call shaking hands and kissing babies. That's what politicians used to do, right? It's where the expression comes from. They would go and politic. They would go, it's where politics come from. They would go politic. They would go find where the crowds are, shake hands, kiss, you know, somebody's baby, and get them to be aware of you, to get them to notice you. And next thing you know, you're part of their circle. Albert is a part of every one of those guys' circle. He's a part of Brad's circle because he's a Brad's product. He's a part of Andy Frizella's group because he did the 75 hard and all that goes with that. You know, he's part of my Let's group. Guy that I'm going to go see soon, Bedros Koulian, is, I don't know if you know who he is.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
We're going to go as a team in about a month. And we're going to do some personal coaching.
Oh, wow.
And I'm taking my team with me, and we're going to learn how to do this education business. You know, that's a 6-figure commitment. But I dropped it down without even thinking twice because I know where I want to go. You got to pay to play. That's the name of the game. Like, Grant likes me and all, but he knows me because I paid to play. And then he makes a decision if he wants to return the favor. He makes a decision if I like that guy or not. You know? So give yourself a chance to bat. Don't just sit there in the bench waiting for someone to call your name. I mean, force yourself out there and take your swing, take your hack, and see what happens. You know, because if not, and this is a Gary thing, you're going to be 80 years old on your deathbed, and you're not going to be thinking about the kids and the spouse or whoever's around you. You're going to be thinking about the at-bats you didn't take. You're going to be thinking about the regrets you didn't achieve. I lived my life like that. I'm going to feel bad, and I didn't say this, and actually don't cry. I'm going to feel bad if I went to an Astros game and I didn't share that with them. Because at that point, what does the money do for you? What's $20,000 going to mean to me when I'm 85 years old on my deathbed? But what would it have meant to them? You know, doing these kind of podcasts, putting your message out there. What's it going to mean to you when you're 85? I could have, I would have, I should have, but I didn't. I mean, Gary says that over and over, right? Doesn't he? He says, you know, hang out with a bunch of old people in a retirement home. You'll learn what regret is. Sit there and listen to their story.
Yeah.
Listen to the failures in their life and the would have, should have, could have that they didn't do. I don't want to live like that. I do not want to live like that. I want to live a complete life.
Yeah. You
know, Gary says all the time, it's funny, I'm going from Grant to Gary. He says all the time, you know, I want to have the biggest funeral possible. And that only happens if you've impacted lives. Yeah. So be a good person. Don't be a shithead. You know, be a good person. Support your team. Talk out loud. Don't silo anything. Share your brain. I call that brain share here. I want everybody sharing, swimming in the same Kool-Aid. I want everybody swimming in the same brain. I want to talk out loud about everything. I want to be out loud about what we're trying to do. I want them to learn. I want them to grow, because the more they know, the easier they make my job and the more valuable they are to me. You know, I want to thank Ashley's right there, because I needed her this last year. And she's really grown into her role. And I didn't even know how to use a personal assistant, an executive assistant, someone, and she's watching my 6. And hey, don't forget about this. Don't forget, hey, we have this. Hey, I heard something going on. You need to think about this. Like, I need to hear these things so I can make the best decision, you know? And so that's tremendously valuable to me, to where, you know, can I do this without her? And the answer is going to answer itself, right? So the more she knows, the more she's capable of doing that. Like, dude, I need consistency in business, because that's all about business. It's consistency. It's just this that hurts the business. But when you can bring consistency there, it's good.
You know, you're always investing, not necessarily financial investments, but you're always thinking and investing about things that are the fruits are gonna come later down the road. And the team to the Astros game, Grant Cardone, you know, the money to be at the front row of his events and buying his products, and just kind of all, or you know, hiring Ashley because you know it's gonna make your life more simple. So it's like you're not looking at the short bottom line that most, or the red line, and the today. Well, you know, I could go spend $20,000 on a new watch today, but it's like, but he just started tearing up whenever he talking about if went to the Astros game and the whole team wasn't with you.
It's terrible.
Yeah,
I don't get it. You know, I love Grant was there at the game, right? He wasn't alone. He took his sister. Now, does his sister have anything with the income? No, but that's his damn sister. And they're getting towards the end of their lives, right? Let me take my sister to a World Series game. That's awesome, Grant. It really is. You know, I was trying to take my brother, but he had to cancel, so I'm going to take him to game 6. But he was my very first guest. I go, bro, you and I are going to go together. And that's how that's all got started with the rest of the company going. He had Jared with him, the head of Cardone Enterprises. He had Ryan with him, the guy that runs Cardone Capital. You know, that's cool. That's cool, because he didn't do that 2 years ago. He brought Elena, which is completely understandable, right? But man, sharing it's a big deal. And that's smart too, man. Let's just go to the marketing aspect. You know, the World Series is basically the baseball equivalent to the Super Bowl. And we know that the Super Bowl is one of the most watched events, you know, all year long when it occurs. And we know that Super Bowl commercials are very expensive. And you got to pay lots of money. You hire VaynerMedia and these guys like Budweiser will hire Vayner to come and create a very dynamic ad that's memorable. Relatively speaking, it is a very cheap to pay $10,000 for a front row ticket to be seen at the Astros game behind home plate all game long. That is genius, Grant. Like right now, the price of the tickets dropped by half, and I've got tickets already. But I'm like, man, it's in my head. Like, should I upgrade my tickets? Should I consider doing that? How cool would it be to sit down there and do that? But then you got to rationalize. Okay, it's not just me.
Yeah.
I'm bringing other people with me. There's that, and then I ask myself, okay, with that money, what could I do? Because money doesn't grow on trees, and you don't want to be stupid with it. There's an investment, and with probably, let's say, the $32,000 plus fees for $8,000 tickets, what could you do with $32,000? Well, that covers several business trips for the whole team to go. So, is your exposure worth that? And you got to sit down there and ask. And I already got tickets. I don't need to do that, but it's very interesting to know that I could. That's an accomplishment. Yeah. That you can blow 8K 4 times on 4 seats to sit damn near home plate. You saw them. You saw where they were at on the map, right? They're damn near corner of the home plate.
Seat 1, row 1.
To experience that. Yeah, seat 1, row 1. Man, I'm thinking about it right now. I'm not gonna lie, because Grant did it. Like, I want to do it, right? But I'm thinking about, like, should you do that? Like, is that the best use of money? But it's the experience, and I'm going back to being 85 again. Like, okay, should I have done that? Should I have sat first row? It's crazy, right? Too. And I just think about that ticket was twice as much yesterday, before the game.
Yeah.
And because they had one game, the season's not over. Nobody got hurt. We just had if you saw the game, it was just a bad game. It was just a bad game of a lot of weird errors, weird plays, unlucky plays. Like, I don't know. I'm not saying it was fixed or anything like that, but, man, there was some really unusual play in that game. So I expect the Astros to bounce back hard tonight, and they'd be shit, man. I don't know. You got me thinking.
Well, one thing I want to highlight real quick is that you, when we're talking about Grant bringing his sister to the game, and then you being able to bring your whole team to the game, I think a lot, and that's almost like if you have the self-awareness and you have that ambition to drive for more and you want more, it's almost like we have to almost put that pressure on us of like, we got to do it for the people around us so we can provide for the people around us and create those experiences for the people around us, So I just want to highlight you for that, because that's because you're one, like you say, you're one of the people in your family that changed the trajectory, but you're also, your ambition and your courage and your drive and discipline is the reason why everybody's going to the Astros game.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a two-way street. And it's awesome.
I appreciate that, and I wish I could tell you like I knew how to do this. I just do what feels right in my heart. I just do what feels right, and I think if you trust your heart, 2 things are going to happen. They say you can never go wrong, and 2, you fall on your own sword. I've done other hard things for people that benefited them dramatically, and they're no longer with the company either. And that's okay. That happens. That's life. I don't expect anybody to be here forever, right? But it's how you leave is very important, and it's how you're interpreted by a lot of people, including me, most importantly. And it's about proximity to people, and you may never get that chance again to have that kind of access. And to have access to a guy like Grant today, where's he going to be 10 years from now? Ask yourself. Look how far he's come. So it's the same thing with you too. Where are you going to be 10 years from now? Do people deserve to be in your life? I've gone through now, I think I started my life over 3 times. I think I have. I think the first day I started real estate back in 2007, I think again about 2-3 years ago, and I think it just occurred this last couple weeks. And it's interesting to see who is there first, second, now. For my first start over, nobody's left. Nobody's left. But you know what? That's because you're growing. You're growing, and you got to ask yourself, are you trying to be everybody's friend, or are you trying to hit your own personal ambition? Because, again, you will be 85 years old if you make it that far, and we're all going to get faced with that question, did I live the life that I wanted? We are. I don't care who you are. And you're going to ask yourself, you're going to answer that for yourself, and I just think that if you live with your heart, I'm okay living with my heart in my shirt sleeve because it's got me this far, and I don't want to change. You do you, I'll do me, and I'll see you at the finish line.
There we go. So is the heart telling you to get the front row ticket?
I haven't made a decision yet, man. I need to think about it. It's tempting.
And it's not even really for yourself. It's for everybody.
Yeah,
here,
it's a little bit for myself, and it's like, man, that I can do it. I like the Astros. I don't know if I like them enough to do that. But is it an accomplishment to do it? To say you can do it? Because let me tell you what accomplishment. It is not bragging. It is proving something to yourself that you're good enough, and that's a mental thing in there, right? And I don't know if I'm going to be able to explain it right? It is lifting your level of expectation for yourself, right? Because once you spend that kind of money once, you can do it again. You understand? You can do it again. I'm going to give you a business example. We still have a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
When I left Grant's Growth Con event earlier this year, what was it, March? Something like that? I immediately went to go tour a deal in Destin, Florida. 2020 construction, $80 million. Biggest stick I've ever going to have to swing at that point. And it was $800,000 hard day one to get it. And man, it was fun. It was scary, but it was fun to be able to be in this position to offer on that. I've never done a deal greater than 30 million. Mm-hmm. So, or 28 million. To jump to 80 is a come to Jesus moment with you, right? Because, it's going to require an $800,000 hard money bat swing. And if you lose, you're going to feel $800,000. Mm-hmm. And so I'm there, okay, you know what, do it. This is how you get ahead in life. Two things are going to happen. I'm either going to get it because I took a risk, or I'm now taking the risk, and taking a different, smaller risk is going to look so much cheaper and easier to do. And so we took the risk. We're playing the game. A Grant Cardone type person wanted it more than us. And they offered $5 million more and $2 million hard. And I'm like, wow. I'm not ready to do $2 million. That's too much of a hit that if it doesn't happen, too much of a swing that I'm going to hurt my family if I lose 2 versus if I lose 8, it's more manageable. I didn't know about this. They came in at the ninth inning, and they stole it from everybody. And they got it. And I was not even mad. I was just like, wow, I didn't want it enough. So I told myself, okay, and it was like $300,000 a unit, which is very expensive.
That's crazy expensive.
So we immediately went back. I came to Houston. There was a deal that was sitting there that I was told the numbers were too tight, and I said, I don't care. I want that deal. It was $45 million, $15 million equity raise versus what would have been over there, and it was $500,000 hard. Yeah, I could do that. Because I just got used to the idea of $800,000, and I just saw what somebody was willing to do with $2 million. And it was tight. It's tight. I don't know if we can get it. Here we are, 5 months later. The deal's worth a lot more already than what I got it. And it was my first exposure into thinking at that higher level because I exposed myself very recently. Actually, we're in contract right now on a deal that we got about a week ago. I toured it about a week and a half ago, where there have been 26 tours, and it's a smaller deal, 52 unit deal, and they wanted $15 million, which will set a record for this area that we're in. But in this area, I already own 3 other deals, which it's a smaller, compact area with limited construction and limited ability to build more, and so it's a big deal to own that percentage already. And I'm like, I want that deal, and I told the broker, like, I got deals here. The sellers knows who we are. We're your buyer. What's it going to take? And he said, I want, they want $15 million, and they want to close by the end of the year. And, and they're like, well, what can you do? And I'm thinking to myself, well, I already have 3 deals here. I already know the market. I know this deal intimately. There's very little risk in taking that deal down and making sure he knows that I'm the guy. So we immediately offered in the parking lot. And I said, tell the seller he's got until 4 o'clock today to let me know, but here is $350,000 hard. Blew out anybody else who was maybe going to hit the price, but didn't have the stones to put 350 hard on this level of deal. Because when you're chasing Class A stuff, no problem. All kinds of, everybody's got the stones. There's not even a conversation to have, you know. But when you're down here, you're still with a more mom and pop type owner. And I came in and I took it because I had already the bat swing. When you go up and you strike out the majors, right? You struck out the majors. Come back down to the minors, you're not as good as the pitcher I just faced. I'm going to slam you, right? And I did. And I slammed all 26 other guys that wanted that deal. I made a decision right there and then. I didn't let it go to a call for offers, because I don't know how you know that works. It's a call for offers, it's interviews, it's where you get like, here's my term. This is what I'm going to give you. You have an answer at 4 o'clock. Who does that sound like?
Grant.
So don't tell me that proximity doesn't matter. He was telling a story just yesterday, the exact same scenario, where he wanted this big deal. Remember, Ashley, were you there listening to this story? Where he's in there and he's telling this story of how he's going up against all the players in the world. He's talking to the buyer. The buyer, this is another story that he shared. The buyer said, no, I can't talk to you privately. You got to go through the brokers, blah, 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 blah. Man, what are we going to do? And I've heard this story before. He used to say back in the day, hey, I'm going to be there on Tuesday. Let's have a meeting there. And the guy said yes. He would go up on Tuesday and be there for the meeting, but I'm going to be in town. He would always let you believe. He literally showed up the very same afternoon. Brian, fire up the plane. Let's go. We're real close. He's there at the Post Oak Hotel, which is the place you want to stay here in Houston, by the way. He calls the guy and goes, hey, I'm here at the hotel. Can you meet me? What's the guy going to say? No. So he goes, meets him there. They figure out the terms there, and he gets the deal. Why? Because Grant's Grant. Grant, you know a good sales guy? Look at his wife. He'll tell you, right? He'll tell you that's a very popular expression. He's Grant, and he negotiated that deal. He went around all the other players because he wanted it more. And if you want it more than everybody else, you're going to win. If you don't want it more, you're not going to win. I suffered my loss in Destin. I told myself that's the last time I'm going to lose like that. So I went back to the minors on those other deals, slammed them. Grand slams. I knew, like I was Astros pitching 2007, or the Astros batting 2017. I knew what was coming. I knew it was going to be a fastball. It was going to be a little high, and I was going to take a yard. And that's exactly what happened. Hopefully that's what happens tonight. Right. So Ashley, you might need to cheat a little tonight because we got to get a win. We'll worry about it 2 years from now.
Bring the trash cans out, huh?
Because you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Y'all play sports. I know you've heard that expression.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes, sir.
There's holding in every play in football. It's just a matter of, are you going to get caught?
Well, thank you so much, Robert, for having us. Seriously, it's been unreal. It's been awesome. It's so cool. Just you having us come here and letting us come here and like being in communication with me is just, we were talking about earlier, you're just a giver and you just love to just give to people and give value where you don't have to. Yeah. You know, and so I admire that, and I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome to both of you guys. Thank you guys. You were gonna say something?
Yeah, I was gonna say whenever Seth asked me to come to this, it was like a no-brainer. I was like, dude, absolutely. Like I'm so stoked. Like on the way here, I was pretty nervous, but I was excited to have this opportunity. And
guys, it's absolutely my pleasure. I get so inspired watching guys like you, and I know what other mentors have done for me by giving me a little bit of their time, even as simple as a selfie, or whatever. That would inspire me to do something different, to push forward. I wanted to acknowledge you guys. I mean, you guys are out there hustling, you're grinding, you're doing things at 23 that I never did. So I can only imagine where you're going to be, because you've now entered my circle. I've now entered your circle, and whether we talk every day or not, you're going to be watching, you're going to be seeing, you're going to be exposed to what can be, and it will affect your level of thinking. So you're not going to want to hang out with your normal friends anymore because they bring nothing to the table. Mm-hmm. They're not doing anything, but what I was doing was like drinking beer, chasing girls, sleeping on the couch. I mean, that's what you do when you're in college, right? I mean, you manage your way through school. You work your schedule out so that you don't have to go to school a certain number of days. You know, I maxed out on Tuesday, Thursday, so I can have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday off, right? You know, and that's what you do. And then you use the rest of the time to, you know, order Gumbies or whatever. You order Gumbies.
They had that.
They had Gumbies, and you take turns on who's gonna. I remember we had an ice storm. We had an ice storm one time, and we're hungry, so we invited everybody over, and we drew straws, and who was gonna go stupidly get in their car on the ice on the road and make it, because Gumby's was open. That place doesn't close.
They're always open.
They was open like 3 or 4 in the morning. I forgot what they. And so I don't think that I lost. I don't remember anymore. But I remember this whole thing though, and I do remember that when I got to town, because the school hadn't started yet, and I was driving down from the valley all the way up. So it was about a 6.5 hour drive, almost 7. And I get there, and I had to kick my door open at a Honda Accord. I had to kick my Honda Accord door open because the ice had kicked up so much on the outside of the car.
Jeez.
It had been raining, and it was icy, and it was like mud, so it was all brown too. And I had to kick my door open to get out of my car. And that was the same day that somebody lost the straw draw to go get pizza at Gumby's at 1:30 in the morning or whatever it was. We were all having a Netflix and chill moment in the apartment. So you could be doing that, or you can be going to conferences.
Yep.
On a Friday, Saturday instead of doing that. Hanging out with people where you want to be. So if I can leave you guys with any advice, I can leave with any of our audiences any advice. The advice is very simple. Take advice from people that are where you want to be. If they aren't where you want to be, you shouldn't be taking it. You shouldn't. And that includes mom and dad. Because if mom and dad had what you wanted, you'd be hanging out with them all the time. You wouldn't be hanging out with other guys or paying attention to people like me or GC, Gary, whoever else is out there. You wouldn't be doing it. It's because you're missing something. They cannot teach you what they don't know. And you will get negativity from all your friends and your family when you change the norm, when you change the game. You will lose some friends and family along the way. But if they were true and real to you and they support you, they'll never leave you. It will be an awakening of many sorts, a come to Jesus moment in your life on who's on your team and who is not on your team. And so congratulations to both of you guys, man.
Yes, sir.
I'm beyond impressed with you guys. Congratulations on your careers. Hurry up and finish school and figure out what you want to do. And don't be afraid to take a little bit of a pay cut. Don't be afraid to take a little bit of a back seat versus some of your friends who are maybe engineers and are going to go work somewhere. If that's not what you want to do, then you don't care what the pay is. Take that back seat and go work somewhere where you can have exposure and vicinity to people like that. I think Gary once said to me that eventually people will be paying to work for somebody else versus them paying you. And that makes a lot of sense because it's all about learning things you can't learn. School is dead. It is. All it does is teach a future employer that you made a commitment to something and you finished it out. But I don't use my engineering degree. I suspect you won't either. If I could go back and do it again, I would have done something with real estate. I would have learned some valuation. I would have learned different things. Or you know what? I would just got an online degree just to show that I did it. And I would have put all my time towards going to conferences like you're doing and investing in myself and creating a network of people so that you can get ahead in a couple years. This is your time right now to learn. This is your time to suck it up and live in the $550 apartment, that might have roaches there, because that's not where you're going to end up. That's just where you're starting. Put all your money in somewhere else, and that can get an ROI and benefit yourself. Paying an extra couple $300 for a nicer place when you're in your 20s is not the best idea. Take that money and save it and put it into something that's going to help you.
Yep.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Thanks,
yes, sir.
man.
Yes, sir. Man. Thank you.
Just thanks so much,
sir.
man. That was a very impactful episode on this podcast. It's fun when I talk to the younger generation. It's fun when I hear how they're wired and where they're going. And it's really meaningful to know that if I can have an impact in their lives and how it might change them moving forward. And I hope that every engagement we have like this does that. So, gents, congratulations on your schooling and your education. But more importantly, congratulations on breaking the norm. Congratulations on getting out of your box and out of your comfort zone and challenging yourself to have a great life instead of just a good life.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Yes,
We'll
sir.
see you guys
Thank
next
you.
time. Thanks, guys.